there, and welcome to the Animag podcast.
Hey, what is up everybody? Welcome back to Animag, the #1 anime podcast that probably has the flu right now. I'm your host, Asylum, sitting here with
Amicus.
And we are back at it. Episode 2, Chainsaw Man.
Hell yeah.
I'm talking, we're watching chart-topping anime right here, right now, folks. There's going to be certain people that say otherwise, but Chainsaw Man is the chart topper.
Before it was on the charts. So.
That's what I told Yeze. We owned the whole Arc 1 collection before the anime ever dropped, so we can call ourselves fans.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like the season is flying by, man.
Like, from reading it and watching it, it's like, holy shit, it's going by fast.
I don't know if it's flying because of the schedule change where it's not happening on a Friday and then I have all week to edit and get it out. It's like kind of in the middle of the week that it's happening. Maybe that's just fucking with my head, but I feel like episode 2 came quick and we're recording this right now. And I feel like episode 3 is just like right around the corner. It's doing some weird shit to my head. And for this particular episode, I have to point out episode 1 was only chapter 1 from the books. But episode 2 goes from chapter 2 to about the middle of chapter 5. So like I was saying, they're starting to consolidate a bunch of chapters into one episode.
Oh, yeah.
So, and we're starting to see some smaller differences from the show versus the manga. There's not anything major that's gonna change the story, but it is small enough to notice. Cause like in the manga, for this episode particular, the show has a car ride scene that actually doesn't even happen in the manga. They have a whole scene where Denji saves this little girl. That doesn't happen in the show. So small, minute things, but still an incredible show. I'm putting it pretty high up.
I'm putting it pretty high on this episode too.
Also, I probably sound like dog shit. It is because I really do think I caught the flu from Yeze, who's been open mouth coughing. So let's do it, man. The episode opens up with Denji and Makima. You as the viewer are going to learn her name later on in the show. If you've never read the mangas, you don't know her name up to this point. So they're riding in a car and they're on their way to Tokyo, and we know this because the title of this episode is Arrival in Tokyo. Here inside the car, we can start to notice some of the slight differences from the manga and this show. And during the ride, we hear Denji's stomach growl multiple times. This man's hungry, okay? Remember, he just slashed up half of the Yakuza and then got into a car with Makima. So it seems like they just took him from the warehouse and hit the road right away. Makima tells him that he's in her care from now on and that she expects a yes or a wolf, like a dog, like woof woof, for answers.
No.
She doesn't need a dog that says no. And to himself, he says, I thought she was nice. I kind of liked her, but I had no idea she was scary like this. It's like, my friend, you have no idea.
God, I don't love her. I woof her.
Bro, make me puke. His opinion on her and how scary she is going to quickly change because she offers to pay for his food when she hears his stomach growling for a second time now. She even gives him her coat because he was still in just his shorts from after his big fight with the Yakuza. And this gets him thinking about how no one's ever been nice to him ever in his whole life, much less a girl that was pretty. Then he blasts the L word in his mind, of course, but he's like, I love her. Slow down, buckaroo. Good God. She gave you her coat and she's paying for your food. You don't love her. And then the intro rolls, and after the intro, we see them at a shop ordering food. Denji's weak from the fight and he starts to pass out. He falls over and his head winds up smacking right into Makima's titty, okay? His face is just firmly planted right onto one of her titties. And I'm gonna say that boobs are kind of a major focus on this episode. You know, it's gonna be brought up a few more times.
It's a trip. It's a trip.
Here's the thing. If that isn't enough in itself to rate this episode a 10 out of 10, then I don't know what is. Just to give you a note, I didn't rate this a 10, but got a lot of titties in it. It's good enough for me. We learn that the chainsaws actually cut up Denji when he transforms. So the loss of blood from that can make him weak. Makima asks how he wound up like this, and he explains the situation with him and Pochita. She tells him that there's not a lot of precedent for this condition, meaning that it's super rare, and the condition's actually so rare that it doesn't even have a name. Makima then says that she does believe him because she has a great sense of smell, and she says that his friend, meaning Pochita, is alive inside of him, but not like, you know, when someone's like family member dies and they're like, yeah, they're with me. She doesn't mean like that. She means like Pochita is actually alive inside of Denji because she could smell both human and devil scent on him. And this obviously excites Denji to learn that his friend Pochita is indeed not dead, but just kind of living inside of him. And then he passes out again.
Oh my god.
Bro, he's weak from the blood loss. He wakes up and they kind of have a moment with the food that they ordered. Makima winds up feeding him.
Oh
and
my god.
Here's your part, buddy. Right here. Right here, we finally see Makima tell him her name, and he asks her if there's a type of guy that she likes. And she says, I'm into the Denji type. And he freaks out and he's like, dude, that's me.
Oh my god.
She doesn't need to be, it's a trap. She doesn't need to be leading this man on like that. We know her ass doesn't like him, but it's kind of obvious to see, even if you've never read the manga, is like, she's leading this man on for a purpose.
Yeah, the next guy she hires, oh yeah, I'm into your type. Oh, yes, yes.
She always says that to everybody she scouts. So they get to the Devil Hunter's headquarters, and she tells him some brief facts about how there's over 1,000 Devil Hunters in Tokyo, including civilian Devil Hunters. They're not just all half devil, half human, or, you know, whatever the case may be. She even mentions the public safety deal, which is where Denji's gonna wind up working. Once they get inside of the elevators in the building, he starts thinking about Makima, and he thinks that maybe they'll wind up working together. And then he's like, hopefully after that we can get together, meaning obviously fuck, as that's this man's big goal, I guess, is to smash Makima. So all this is brought about because she said that she was into the Denji type. Going back to what I said a while ago, she doesn't need to be hyping this man's head up like that. So inside of her office, she gives Denji a uniform and introduces him to Aki, who's going to be a major character in this story. And majority of this episode really is just centered around us learning who Aki is a little bit and seeing the relationship between him and Denji kind of form, because it doesn't really start off well. They really didn't like each other. So Denji's gonna wind up shadowing Aki for the day, and Aki grabs the back of Denji's shirt and he's like, you're not even in Makima's league, because he was like, wait, Makima, I thought we were gonna be working together. So Aki's like, hell no, you're not even in her league. And then he drags him out of the office. And like I said, at first they really don't get along. Denji falls to the floor. Okay, this is still in the office, and he's down there and he's bitching about how he wants to work with Makima. So she walks over and she bends down. She starts tying his tie a little bit, and she's like, if you do a good job, we can wind up working together someday. She's just back on her bullshit, dude.
Well, that's one way to get Denji on your side.
Yeah, he hears that and he's like, oh fuck yeah, goes out, crushes the day. So they get out on the road, they're out on patrol, and Denji's asking Aki a bunch of questions about Makima, and Aki's obviously annoyed by this. He tells Denji to follow him. He's like, follow me. They get down this alleyway, and Aki beats the shit out of Denji. I'm talking like not a slap. He doesn't shove him to the ground. He beats the fuck out of this kid. He tells Denji how people who take this job without thinking it through always wind up dead, and he should just leave right now. He realizes that Denji just took this job because he's after Makima. When he says this to Denji, Denji confirms by going, ding dong.
Ding dong.
So even though he just got his ass kicked, he's still being sarcastic, and he's doing all this. He's like laying on top of some trash bags because he's on the ground. Like, Aki fucked him up that bad. Aki kind of finishes up and he flicks his cigarette onto Denji's chest, and then he spits on it to put it out.
Oh my god, I can't wait for this.
Aki says, I'll let her know that you ran off, scared away by the devils. And then he goes to walk away. And the next thing you know, Denji gets up, runs towards the back of Aki, and kicks him square in the nuts. So Aki falls down onto his stomach, and Denji kicks him in the nuts 4 or 5 more times. While he's kicking him in the nuts, he says, when I fight a dude, it's nuts or nothing.
Nuts or nothing.
And look, shameless plug, but if you go to our YouTube, I honestly did post a short about this clip. So you can see exactly what we're talking about there. And as Aki is down, Denji explains that he had good food for the first time ever in his life, and someone even paid for it. And sure, he didn't think the job through when he took it, but if he gets to keep this kind of life, he really doesn't care if it kills him. And Aki gets up, and they wind up having a pretty big fight right here, like going back and forth. And Aki is saying how Makima's not the kind of woman someone like Denji should be chasing. And Denji goes, sounds to me like you like her. Which, if you noticed when Makima was tying Denji's tie earlier in the office, Aki does look back. He slightly scoffs at that moment. He's just like, pfft. So the fight obviously is won by Denji with one final kick to Aki's balls. And it's like,
I love what he tells Monkey.
When, after the fight?
Yes. Aki got attacked by the nut devil.
Oh, yeah. So they get back to the office and Denji is holding Aki up, you know, like you can tell they'd either been in a fight or they really were in a pretty bad battle. And Denji says to Makima that his nuts were attacked by the nut devil. And Aki tries to rat him out. He's like, what? No. And Makima says, she breaks in, she goes, so you think you two can work together? And they both say no. But Makima's not having it. She says, I'm glad you two are getting along. And then she explains that Denji's gonna be joining Aki's unit. And Aki's obviously not happy about this. The dude just got kicked in the nuts 37 times. Of course you don't want this fucking maniac working on your team. He comes into work having one bad day, starts kicking you in the nuts. Fuck that. But Makima reminds Aki that his team is an experimental one, so it doesn't operate normally. She says that if Denji tries to quit or not follow the rules, they will wind up having to put him down as a devil. And right here, she says to Denji that they're working together until the day he dies. He kind of got bamboozled right here, you know? He didn't approach Makima for a job. She went to the warehouse and she found him. So she's honestly like taking him in as a slave, pretty much. He's got absolutely no choice but to do this. After the office, they're walking home and Denji asks Aki if Makima's a good person. We find out here that she did save Aki's life, but that's all he says on the matter. So I'm sure we're going to find out a little more later on about what she did to save his life, you know. And they get to a crosswalk and Denji goes, Makima, I hope I get to hug her again. And Aki looks at him and he's like, what?
What?
And this only furthers our suspicions that Aki does like Makima. Right here in the show, we learn that Denji will be living with Aki, so that way he can keep an eye on him. And Denji really isn't the best roommate. He eats all of Aki's fucking bread and jams, uses all the fucking toilet paper, and he doesn't replace it, falls asleep on the toilet, and he takes fucking super long baths. Basically, it's everything you don't want in a roommate.
Yeah.
During this scene, Aki really did seem kind of annoyed by it, but he stays professional and he's like, all right, whatever. Because, I mean, Makima really did order that to happen, so what can he do aside from going back and just bitching about it? So the next day, they get to a job site to take care of a fiend, and Denji asks Aki what a fiend is, and Aki's like, did you never go to school? To which his reply is no. And I think, based off of the knowledge that I have of this, I think that this is going to be an important piece of the story later on, like after this arc. Don't hold me to that, but how I saw the last book in, I think this is going to be pretty important. So Aki explains that a fiend is when a devil takes control of a human corpse. And they get to the room where the fiend is, and Aki wants Denji to turn into his devil form to see if he's going to be useful or not. But Denji doesn't do it. He just kind of walks up to the fiend and he slices its head off with an axe. And Aki's like, what the hell? Why didn't you use your devil powers? To Denji saying, well, when I use my powers, they get really messed up, and I wanted to make it as painless as possible for him. This pisses off Aki. He slams Denji's head into the window, and he's like, look, these things don't deserve any remorse. We wind up learning that Aki's family was killed by a devil right in front of him, which is kind of sad. So Aki then says, what are you trying to make friends with these things? And Denji goes, well, if there's one that would be my friend, then yes, because I've never had any friends. And Aki walks away way, and he goes, I'll remember that. So I think maybe that statement, if Aki can remember, is going to be a problem for Denji and Aki. That was a heavy moment, a heavy scene right there.
And then after Aki leaves, fucking Denji sees the fucking Playboy magazines.
Gotta
like,
get the porn.
I'm gonna take this off of you, man. And I did want to transform because I didn't want to get blood all over these babies.
That was my favorite part. Denji sees the porn and he bends down and he's like, honestly, I was just trying to keep all the blood off of these bad boys. And then he picks up the porn magazines and he's like, the porn is secure.
I want to touch some boobs, and it just goes straight to the office.
Yeah, I want to touch some boobs.
Boobs. And then Monkey's like, what?
So, like, he kind of, after he picks up the porn and shit, he has a small moment with himself in the room where they killed the fiend, and he's thinking about how his life currently is a 10 out of 10, seeing that he gets to take baths every day and eat all the food he wants, but it still feels like something is missing. And this is where he has the realization that touching boobs is the thing that may get the complete perfect score for his life. That's where that comes into play, you know, because he's like, Aki is here killing these devils for revenge. Everyone has a purpose. I guess he felt like he didn't have a purpose, so he wants to touch some titties. Quite honestly, my man, same. So back in Makima's office after the job, he's still daydreaming about boobs, and she's explaining that she's going to be assigning Denji a partner.
Yes.
Seeing that the teams patrol in pairs of twos. And Makima says, be careful, she is a fiend. And then bam, we meet Power.
Woo! Power! What?
I'm gonna say that I don't particularly care for Power.
I love Power.
I have a bunch of reasons that I can't say for spoiler purposes. I will say that I just don't like her because she doesn't think and she just goes. You know what I'm saying? And you see that in this episode. We'll get to that. She doesn't rationalize anything. She just kills, you know? And I get it. She's a fiend, but come on.
That's what I love.
So Denji's like, you're a girl and a fiend? Are girls even allowed to be devil hunters? And then he focuses in on her boobs and he legit forgets about everything he was saying. He's like, okay.
Okay, we could pair up.
We could work with this. So Makima explains again how this team is all experimental and that it needs to get results, because if it doesn't provide results, the higher ups will want to do away with it. And for Denji and Power, that means death. So they have to get shit going. And the last bit of this episode is Denji and Power out on a patrol, and they have to patrol on a rooftop because Power has some horns coming out of her head, so they can't just go out on the street like him and Aki were previously. So they're up on some rooftops, and Power's being super annoying. She's fiending for some blood. She's a blood devil, and Power tells Denji that before she was a fiend, she was a devil that was feared by all. And that's probably why they aren't seeing any action on this patrol. And Denji's like, what the fuck? Then he realizes that Aki probably set this up so he could look like shit and not get anything done. He's like, Aki's trying to get me killed. And it's like, if you really think about it, it kind of makes sense. Is Aki trying to get Denji killed? Putting him with this fucking nutcase? First of all.
Fucking Aki. I am the only dog she needs. Not you.
I will be the only good boy around.
Woof.
So Power gets the scent of some blood and she takes off running towards it. And Denji's chasing after her to help her, but it's no use because she's super fast. So we see that it's a sea cucumber devil, which is again kind of silly, like I said in episode 1 for some of these devil names, but it did look pretty cool. And before anything can really happen, Power jumps off the building, forms a massive hammer with her blood powers, and smashes this thing into bits. The scene ends with Power screaming, "The kill is mine!" And Denji, she's just like screaming this to everybody, and Denji's looking down from the building, realizing that she might actually be insane. And that's the end of the episode. And then, of course, we get the second outro for this season, which I did like. I thought it was a solid 8 because I really did like the bass work for it.
I did too. I loved it.
I thought it was pretty jazzy. And that's the episode, man. So that's chapter 2 through about midway of chapter 5, which I think is something I want to do with this show. I want to see how many chapters they'll consolidate in each episode, you know?
Yeah.
Chapter 1 was thick and long enough to be one episode. I can see why they had to consolidate because chapter 2 was super short. So we got like 3.5 chapters out of this episode. And honestly, it was fire because they introduced 2 big players that are in the story.
Yes.
We get a good bit about Aki, and we get just enough about Power.
We got 2 dogs that are trying to be the main dog for Maki, and we got one that's insane and just wants to fight.
Yeah. Power, I think, is going to wind up being some problems, or she's going to wind up being a problem on some jobs because she doesn't have the ability to just rationally think something out. She just wants to fucking get it done so she can get blood. And it's also going to be a little interesting to learn more about her, you know, because she is a fiend, which means a devil took over the body that she's in. So I wonder if maybe we'll get some information on how the body that devil's in, maybe how that body died or how it came to be. I think that would be pretty interesting.
That would be interesting.
So I think for me overall, this episode is probably going to get... Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. Okay,
9 out of 10.
9 out of 10.
9 out of 10.
I had it at a 9 on my initial rating. I kind of want to drop it to an 8. This episode for me is going to also...
You're telling me you didn't laugh at Denji versus Aki whenever he was just aiming for the fucking nuts like he was the nutcracker.
I'm going to be honest with you. That's what's going to save this score for it. I'm going to keep it at a 9. Was mostly because of the nut scene.
And the cucumber devil, the fucking pedestrian, I guess, the devil corpse or whatever was making a call. Yeah, we need backup.
It's like episode 1 was a 9, so that kind of got me thinking weird, but this is also a 9. It's just not in the same way that episode 1 was a 9. You know what I mean?
Yeah, episode 1 was like a 9.5 for me. And
episode 1 was just... It's a 9 in the world of openers for seasons. This episode's a 9 in the world of now we're getting introduced to main characters in the story and how much of that character are they giving us to bring us back. And I thought that this episode did a good job because we learned about Aki's family. We still have more stuff to learn about how Makima saved him and all that. And we also get to meet Power, and they don't give us a lot about her, which is what they want us to come back for on the next one. They give us just enough, and that's why I think this is a 9. And of course, the nut kicking scene was just hilarious.
I was just laughing. I was like, oh, I forgot this guy kicks him like 5 to 6 times in the nuts.
Dude, that man
and then goes back to Maki and it's like, yeah, he got attacked by the nut devil.
That man's nuts must have been swollen up like some softballs. I'm really enjoying this as a show. Like, I really liked it as the mangas, of course, but something about the show just does it a little more for me.
It's just like, when I was just gonna read one chapter of the manga, it just sucks you in.
Yeah.
I just could not put the book down until
I mean, I'm not gonna say that every single book out of the first arc was a banger, because there were some that drug for me, and I'm like, oh, let me just get past this to pray that the next book is better, but every time that would happen, the next book was better. And it only happened twice. I think it happened around book 5, because when I got into 6, it was popping, and then I think like 7 drug and 8 popped, something like that. But you can pretty much expect that with any manga. It's not going to be a situation where every single book absolutely blows your mind.
Yeah, and people have like different tastes, so.
But knowing where they are here in the mangas, I'm getting kind of excited for episode 3. Because
I am very excited.
We are about to get to some fucking action, y'all. So, I don't know. Pretty much it, man. It's not, I don't know. I feel like this was a long-winded episode because there was a lot to take notes on.
Yeah, you're basically just getting introduced to some characters. There wasn't a major fight, which there ain't always going to be a major fight.
That's true because there's still a fuck ton of people they have to introduce.
Oh, yeah.
And it's going to be interesting to see how they do that. How many of those introductions are they going to try to squeeze into one episode? I think if they do it like this, it's going to be fine because we get one almost full introduction and one kind of half introduction. I think that would work. It would work better for us because if you do 3 introductions in an episode, it's going to probably take like 40, 50 minutes for us to podcast about. Which is fine. I don't mind doing that, but, you know, save some juice for season 2, man.
Save the juice.
I'm curious to see if there's no way they're going to do all of the first arc in one season. There's no way.
Might never know.
Dude, they'd have to start consolidating so many chapters because we're going into episode 3 and they're already on like midway of chapter 5 of the first book.
It just depends.
I'm talking, they would have
some of the chapters being one episode.
Dude, they would have to start consolidating books because there's 12 books in the first arc.
Well, 11.
Yeah, true. 11. Like, I think this first season's probably going to stop somewhere around book 4 or 3 because there's like what, 12, 20 chapters in a book? No, it's going to be less than that.
So?
Because I was in book fucking 10 and I was on chapter 80. I guess we'll just have to see, man. That's actually a good thought. I'm about to go back when we get off of this and look and try to figure it out. Maybe it'll be around book 5. Will be the end of season 1. We get a season 2. It's the rest of the arc. And then season 3 will be the new fresh arc, which
we just have to see.
Which I have a feeling what that's going to be, but I'm not going to say it in case you didn't read it. I don't want to spoil it for anybody. I'll just let the show tell the story, which is kind of hard because there's a lot of shit I want to spoil.
Even though we might not spoil it, just watch out for the chat because they might spoil it.
Yeah, the chat might spoil it, so you never know. It's kind of weird that like now that we're done with the podcast, I'm kind of feeling okay.
Oh.
Or
episode 3.
Episode 3 this week on a Tuesday. I feel like my voice is really warmed up now. When we started, it was rough. But anyways, we hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time. Until then, so long, everybody.
Woof! Sayonara.
Oh my god.
I have to do the wolf.
Thank you for listening. Be sure to visit our website at www.animag.org. See you next time.